So if you haven't been living under a literal rock, then you have probably seen these videos coming out about people leaving New Age and converting to Christianity and kind of the New Age being a scam. And while I have had experience on both sides, I wanted to share my probably somewhat unique take on what's going on and why this pendulum keeps swinging. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Liz and I make a lot of content on Instagram and TikTok, but I'm kind of getting back into YouTube because I'm hearing that they're seeking out authentic, raw, real creators who don't have freaking 40 hours a week to fixate on editing and getting all the perfect B-roll. So here I am back on this platform because it's finally catered to me. So this topic has been pretty prevalent recently. In the last maybe 2-3 years, there's been this kind of shift from, people really diving into the like metaphysical side of things, the more, manifestation, affirmation, crystals, healing, all that kind of stuff. And now they're going to Christianity. And while I was raised a Christian and actually also became, a new ager around 17, 18 years old, I can understand why this pendulum is happening. And it's not as simple as everyone's making it out to be. So there's a few patterns that I've noticed with the particular like interviews and stories that I'm hearing from the people who are converting from New Age to Christianity. For one, most of them were not raised Christian. So they have no foundational understanding of Jesus. They never, really had a connection to him, a relationship to him, or even understood, what his purpose was, ever read the Bible, things like that. And the other pattern is that a lot of these people had really toxic relationships with the tools that are affiliated with the New Age. So crystals, meditation, tarot readings, etc. Just whatever, name it, And a lot of these people have turned these tools into idols and are replacing their relationship with them for their relationship with God, rather than seeing that those are tools to be used to connect to God. So that's the other aspect. And these two commonalities are really huge because I think it basically, the root of the problem is there's no foundational relationship with God. Because yes, New Age very much is about you are your own God, or, the universe, which is kind of this vague, broad term. Mind you, I'm not speaking out on against either side. I'm just kind of sharing what I've noticed and the patterns that I've kind of observed and witnessed. So then people, again, either don't have a foundational relationship with God through some sort of religion, or got into New Age and, started to use the tools to replace God, then undergo some sort of weird experience, some sort of reality shattering experience, whether it was quote unquote demonic, whether it was just like an all-time low, they start going through their dark night of the soul, maybe they start facing their shadow and they get kind of freaked out, they get to a low point, they feel like giving up, they're in despair, they're depressed, they're lost. And something happens with these people that convert from New Age to Christianity. And that thing is they connect to Jesus, whether they themselves at a low point from out of nowhere within them, cry out and pray to Jesus, or they actually have some kind of encounter with him, some sort of visual, I don't know. So, but that seems to be the common thing. They're kind of in this low place and then Jesus reaches out and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, like Jesus is real, and like, does Christianity have it right all along? I mean, my family's Christian, or my relatives, or, obviously like the large part of the world is. So have I had it wrong this whole time? And so they'll want to pursue that because all of a sudden they'll feel relief, right? They'll feel inspired, they'll feel peace. And that's new in, kind of the state that they were in for a while. And obviously Jesus bringing that, they're curious. So the next steps seem to be that these people will then go to the church or go to the Bible or go to these institutions that they have been taught have all claim and authority over Jesus. And that's my kind of unique perspective, is that I don't think that that's inherently true. I do not believe that Jesus is solely confined in the context of the Bible and in the context of the church. But here's the thing, these people will go to the church, they will kind of, meekly, humbly kind of be like, yeah, hi guys, I'm new. I was kind of in the New Age and then I had an experience with Jesus and now I'm trying to kind of see and pursue that. And these people will be swarmed by the church. The church wants those kind of people. They want those sort of testimonies and they will give them a pedestal. They will probably put them out in the public. They will push these people to share their experience with everybody else because they so badly want to discredit anything in the New Age and these people are like living proof that they do ultimately have the one and only path to God. But why is that? Why are they swarming that? Because as much people as you're noticing leave New Age for Christianity, there are probably 10 times more leaving Christianity for metaphysical New Age or Eastern philosophy incorporations into their spiritual life. And this is what people are kind of not noticing, because it's so much easier to notice the negative stuff than it is the positive stuff. The people who are experiencing the positive aspects of leaving a institutionalized religion like Christianity and becoming more open spiritually are not out there, obnoxiously parading that they did this. They're just like internally going through the shift. Maybe they're sharing it with some friends and family. But those who left New Age to Christianity are out there publicly bashing, calling it demonic, saying that they've been deceived. And you see their language shift. The interviews that I've watched, these people are saying, by the blood of the lamb, and, I am forgiven, I was a dirty, like all the jargon, all the nasty aspects of this religion, they have now become indoctrinated into because they view it as the saving grace. And again, they wanted a relationship with Jesus, and they were told that this is how you get that. And I'm here to tell you that that is not necessarily true. Now, mind you, I think this pendulum swing is happening for a reason, because the people who didn't have a foundational relationship with God, or did turn some of the tools into idols and kind of worship them and had like attachments and dependence on them, they probably need a foundational religion right now. That is probably the season of life that they're in. And Christianity is a great place to start. I mean, there is so much good morals, values, wisdom in the Bible, in the church. The community that you can get in the church is great. People are genuinely have a heart for God. They're trying to be better people, and they want to serve. That is a great aspect of the Christian religion and many other religions. And I think this is such a great place to be in for people. And personally, in my own experience, I went through something very similar. I was raised Christian, left all faith in God for a couple years in my early teens. Then I started having some mystical experiences that started opening me up. I delved deep into the New Age, into past lives, into tarot, into crystals, into energy. And I did realize that I was losing some structure and that there were still gaps in the, system. And here's why that is. Because the New Age is not something that you're supposed to be identifying with. It is not who you are. It is not another religion, as much as Christians and other people are trying to say that it's just a new religion. The New Age is not a religion. It is not a belief system for you to lean on. It is a shift in consciousness. I mean, when the Bible spoke of the apocalypse, if you look at the etymology of that word, apocalypse means unveiling. And when in our human history has there been another time as prevalent as today where we are seeing the corruption in almost every single system that we have in place? Church, school, medicine, whatever system you look at, you can see that there is a root of corruption, and religion is just at the top. Because sure, your health is important, your education is important, your, government and your political system, those are all important, but spirituality is the most important thing. And religion has been at the top, leaching its corruption into all of these other systems. And as much as there is still so much good wisdom, of course there is, in Christianity. Of course there's still so much good wisdom. It wouldn't have worked otherwise. It wouldn't have lasted this long if there wasn't a good amount of truth in it. But they take out just enough to keep you stuck in the belief that you are inherently broken, that you are a sinner, that you need an external savior, and without them, you will burn in hell. That's fear, shame, guilt. Those are the most powerful emotions to keep people trapped, to keep people dependent on you, to keep people stuck, okay? And so ultimately, yes, going to religion for a little while can be beneficial. You can kind of reframe, reground yourself, recenter. What's important? What are my values? Having a role model like Jesus is such a blessing. Like personally, he is my guide. I lean on him. I pray to him. I talk to him. But I know that ultimately just believing in him and his resurrection is not going to bring me salvation, is not going to awaken me to my oneness to God. He can help me, he can guide me, he can be a guide and a teacher, but he's not going to save me. The way I like to talk about it is I see Jesus as a lighthouse, and you are on a ship in stormy seas. He's going to light the way home, but you have to steer your ship there. He's not going to hop on the boat, take over the steering wheel, and get you to shore. That's on you. That's your free will. He is not going to impose on that. And so, wrapping back up, I was in the New Age, definitely felt the same thing, was going through a dark night of the soul, started feeling lost. I had some freaky encounters, some, aspects of this reality were being uncovered I didn't have answers for. I got a little scared. I needed some foundational stuff. I was, looking more into traditional living, whether that's feminine and masculine within my relationship, and going back to, okay, do I want to stay home? Do I want to have children? Kind of reflecting on what traditional aspects have we disregarded too quickly, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, what aspects might benefit me from reintegrating into my life. And so I stopped rebelling. I started looking at my culture, my traditions, my family, and the wisdom that they've passed on. And I started taking, what works, what doesn't, what resonates, and what have I kind of thrown away without really reflecting on. And I was wondering, maybe Christianity does have it right, because I also had a reconnection with Jesus that made me wonder, like, maybe they have it right. And so I started going to church. I started leading worship. I did this for about a year or two, but something in me just could not accept that they had the full truth. Something in me I could not. I'm sorry. Once you know a little bit too much, once you have experienced and felt and seen the truth, then it's really hard to go backwards and to kind of accept everything that's just handed to you on this very sugar-coated platter, and you're supposed to just be like, yeah, this is it, just believe in his death and resurrection and I'm saved, and so over time, I just kept praying on it. I kept asking, seeking, and knocking, which is what Jesus taught us. And unfortunately, a lot of Christians have stopped doing this. They have stopped asking for more revelation, more truth. They have stopped questioning because they are told, here's the Bible, it has everything you need to know in it. Don't ask any more questions. If you have questions, just put them on the shelf. Don't look at them, pray on them. But you're not actually asking God, is this Bible 100% true? How many Christians have actually genuinely asked that question in their entire life? But they're taught, no, you cannot question the Bible, because they've turned the Bible into an idol that they literally worship and they view at the same level of God. And they say that's what God said, but I'm saying, no, that's what the Bible says. The Bible and God are not one and the same. And so I started asking, seeking, and knocking, and I asked God, is this book 100% true? Am I wrong? I have been wrong in the past. I am totally willing to be meek and humble and to accept that I have been deceived, that I have fallen into, off the path, and that maybe I need to be redirected. Please guide me. And a loving God is not going to fuck around with me and waste my time. And what was revealed to me was actually the Gnostic Gospels, which, at first I was like, the Gospel of Thomas, like, this doesn't sound familiar. Like, why is, I've never heard of this. It's not in the Bible. Of course it's not in the Bible, because when I started reading it, I started seeing that, wow, these texts literally teach you that you don't need a church or an institution. And I started looking into the history, and of course they suppress these. Now, mind you, I'm not saying everything in the Gnostic Gospels is 100% true either. You have to use discernment. You have to, again, kind of develop the eyes to see and the ears to hear that Jesus talked about. But there is so much juicy truth and wisdom in those texts, and you can see why they might have suppressed them and not included them in the canon. Again, Rome is the one that canonized the Bible. Rome was an empire that originally despised Christianity. They wanted to suppress it. They wanted to kill all the Christians, but they were getting too powerful. So what do? They got in front of it. They're like, you know what? We need to corral these people. Sure, let's embrace their religion. Let's convert. We'll just inject all our little pagan ways under the surface, and we'll just kind of claim it as our new religion, and we'll control what they believe. And they didn't want a bunch of Jesuses walking around. They didn't want a bunch of Christ awakened beings walking around. So they turned Jesus into a god so that we could never attain that level. And they turned it into straight heresy for you to say that you can be like Christ, despite that actually being his teachings. Like, sure, they left some of those bits in, but then they had Paul come around and kind of, reframe all of that and add his own little perspectives and ways that reframed Jesus' entire message as just believing in his resurrection as the path to God. And now people can't even disconnect Paul from Jesus. They view them as equal and the same. And it's a little bit lost. It's a little bit, they've taken all the symbolic stuff and they view it literally. They take all the literal stuff and view it symbolically, and they have completely lost the plot. And so here's the thing. The New Age is a shift. It is not something that you are, it is something that's happening. And you can be an active participant in this time that has been prophesied for thousands of years. Or you can stay stuck in dusty doctrine and dogma like the Pharisees and so many before, because there is nothing new under the sun. Jesus came to rebuke the system of religion, and yet they've created an entire religion in his name and are now clinging to it the same way the Pharisees did when he came and he was trying to correct them. What New Age is a reawakening of ancient knowledge that we only have access to now because we have technology, because we are able to unify as a collective. We have been waiting for this time period. People on the West Coast of the United States had no idea what was going on the East Coast of the United States just 100 to 200 years ago. There has never been a time like there is today where we have been so connected and unified, where we can share so much information. And I truly believe that Jesus came to bridge the East and the West, masculine and feminine, spirit and matter. And they turned him into a god to keep us asleep to the fact that we are also supposed to do that within ourselves. Because what did he say? The kingdom of God is within us. So they tell you you're dirty, you're a sinner. Don't trust what's within. Don't look there. That's wrong. Don't trust that. You need to trust us. We have all the answers you need. You cannot be both a sinner, broken and inherently dirty and filthy and untrustworthy, and also possess the kingdom of heaven within you. That cannot. They don't blend, they don't mix. So let that soak in and consider that maybe, just maybe, it's not about being New Age or being Christian, but about embodying what Jesus came to teach. Because yes, even many Easterners view Jesus as an embodiment of Buddha, or what we call Christ. They do accept Jesus as one of their own, but only the West is extremely patriarchal, extremely power hungry, greedy, and dominating, and wants all claim and authority to Jesus. So they will discredit any connection to Jesus in the East. They will discredit anything related to the New Age because they don't want you putting the puzzle pieces together and seeing that we always all had little pieces, and that it took the New Age, the shift that's happening now, for us to put the pieces together and see the bigger picture. So if you are drawn to energy work, to healing, to chakras, to tarot, to meditation, to past lives, then do not feel like there's something wrong with you if you are also called to connect to Jesus, because he himself came to bridge those two worlds, to bridge the inner and the outer, okay? And the West has been focusing solely on the outer, completely disconnected us from the inner. And the East is, it's got its stuff too, okay? I'm not fully aware of what's going on in the East. And I know that they have their corruption and their caste system and their perspectives of reincarnation that are toxic and unhealthy. I'm not at all saying that any side or anybody has it all 100% right. But you know who did? I think Jesus did. And I want to be like him. And so I'm going to pursue that. And I'm going to pray, I'm going to ask, I'm going to seek and knock. And I'm going to be always willing to be course corrected if I am on the wrong path. But ultimately, that is not what God led me to. So if this resonates with you, then hit that subscribe button, follow along, comment down below. Tell me if, you've experienced anything like this. If you felt or been told that something's wrong with you, if you are drawn or, have interest in metaphysical aspects of this reality, if you're isolated and alone and feel like you can't find anybody who resonates or understands you. I also talk a lot about this on Instagram and TikTok. So those links are in the description as well. And I'll also be making a lot more content like this, raw and real, just me and you. So if you like this kind of stuff, follow along. And I'm so happy to have you join, because my goal is to bridge Christianity and New Age, not as identities, but as movements that have so much inherent power, wisdom within them, and that we can ultimately all learn from both sides and unify within ourselves. So I hope that makes sense, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.